Hello and welcome to the Behringer Crawford Museum. We are delighted you decided to join us for the Northern Kentucky Music Legends exhibit. Following this introduction, you will see a series of short interviews with the museum's executive director, members of the exhibit committee, and many of the musicians featured in the exhibit. On behalf of the committee, we hope the exhibit brings back many great memories that you've shared with these musicians who have performed at Northern Kentucky's most popular venues. My distinct pleasure to introduce Northern Kentucky's premier country music entertainer and Bobby Mackey. And Bobby, we're so happy you're here. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming in and sharing with us for this Northern Kentucky music exhibit. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and it's great to be a part of it. I'm honored to be a part of it, and it sounds really exciting.
We got Jerry Gifford here, and you know Jerry's an entertainer as well as you are, but tell us a little bit about your background. You told me off camera you're from Lewis County, and how'd you get interested in country music?
Well, growing up in Lewis County, a little town called Concord right along the Ohio River, and a railroad track ran right by my dad's grocery store. And it was a railroad town. The camp cars there was a side track there, and the camp cars would lay in there during the week. And in the evening, these camp car guys would come down to Dad's store, so that was their entertainment. So Dad got a jukebox in the store. And I still have the jukebox, an old Wurlitzer with the bubbles shooting through it, an old Wurlitzer jukebox.
But don't take it to Pawn Stars. You know, they buy it out there in
no,
Vegas.
I'm not giving this up. But it needs a little work done. It'll still play. It'll still play. But these railroad guys would hang around there, and of course Concord was a dry town, but the county was wet, but Concord was dry. But these guys would have a pint in their back pocket, and they'd buy Cokes, and they'd go around the back of Dad's grocery store, put it in their Cokes, and then they'd get to dancing to the jukebox, and they'd want me to sing along with it. So I'd sing along with the jukebox, singing Hank Williams songs. And, you know, growing up there, music was, as far as I can remember, when, you know, music has been the biggest part of my life. And my mom told me that I was singing by the time I could talk. She taught me to some words to sing. I used to sing 30 Pieces of Silver when I don't even remember it. And
well, now, when did you start becoming a paid entertainer?
Well,
then you did it for pleasure. I know you still do, but when did you become a professional?
Well, I started, if I could go back to there, when I was 4 years old, I sang along with Hank Williams songs. Hank was the only voice that I recognized. The radio played. I would sit there by it, but Hank was the only voice I recognized. And I remember the day he died, they were playing nothing but Hank records over and over, nothing but Hank. And my mom had to explain to me why, that, of course, he had died. And I thought that was the end of music, you know. And I thought, well, no, he can't be. He's singing on the radio. But when she made me understand that he had passed away, I thought that was the end of music. But anyway, then my teenage years, Buck Owens come along. Buck Owens and the Buckaroos, Don Rich, and boy, that lit me up. That harmony I loved, and so, you know, Buck was my idol in my teenage years. And then Merle Haggard come along. And so, you know, all the Grand Ole Opry stars, I listened to the Grand Ole Opry all the time growing up. But after I got out of high school, I come down to Covington and went to work on the railroad. I worked for the C&O Railroad. And so I got to going around to jam stations in the area, out to Seven Oaks, out in Latonia, or Taylor Mill, rather. And playing jam sessions, and a band that was all together that had played with Landon Williams. If you remember Landon Williams, he played at the Black Stallion. Well, he got a new group because he was getting ready to go on the road, and these guys couldn't go on the road. So here was Landon's old band, needed a singer, and somebody told Red Jenkins was the leader of the band. somebody told Red about this kid that was coming out to jam session singing. So Red got a hold of me, and he had a gig. He asked me if I could play this Friday night, and I said yeah, and it was at the Apple in Woodlawn. And
Jerry, you remember that place?
No, I don't.
The Apple in Woodlawn, and it was 1970, and that's when I first started playing music with the band. I hadn't worked with any bands much at all. It was just me and my guitar. I'd go, you know, here and there with the band, but never was rehearsed with the band. So it was Wendy Hargraves, Clyde Markham, Steve Worley, and Red Jenkins. And I always say, you know, that I had never met any of them, but Red asked me if I could be there at the Apple on Friday night, and I showed up.
But musicians can do that, can't they, Jerry? Just like you're talking about having a jam.
In your heart, you know, Bobby, if we've never played together, I'll guarantee you if we got together and did something, it would work.
We'd know the same songs. We'd know the same old songs. And once a song started,
that's all you need.
Nobody have to teach it.
Whatever key, whatever. Yeah, you're right.
And I always say that I showed up and met these guys. We shook hands and come out singing, come out playing music.
That's good.
Now, what venues? What were some of the venues that you played at?
Well, I played at the Apple for a little while, and at the time, Bill Clark, who owned the Apple, had the place rented out to sock hops on Saturday nights, every Saturday night for a while. But we started playing Friday nights, and then we decided that we were going to, when his sock hop thing ran out, he wasn't going to book anymore, and we were going to go there and play. But meanwhile, we come back over here to the Chuck Inn in Highland Heights.
Right.
Remember the Chuck Inn?
Yep.
It was the Granada before that.
Yeah, set up on the hill.
It was the dorm also at one point, right?
Hager Holbrook owned it. It's down there right across from Lowe's now.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we played there for a while on, I think, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, until the sock hops ran out at the Apple. Then we went back there and was there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I believe. Was there from the fall of '70 till I think it was January '73, I think, when we ended up, we went to the Boulevard over in Springdale. And it was, when I first went there, we went there for 5 nights a week. Wow. We were playing 5 nights a week, and Danny Comer, who owned the Boulevard, still does. It's still there. We started tearing walls down. It was like a shopping mall, or shopping strip mall, and he owned the whole mall, and he had a pony keg, and he had a real estate office, and we had the nightclub this big, and we knocked this wall out and went on back here and knocked the next one out, and we ended up we'd seat. I was there 4.5 years, and we I think 450 people, I think, and we played 5 nights a week there for 4.5 years. Then it ended up going to Julie's in Sharonville.
Now, the popularity of country music. I've heard people say country music is real life. Why has country music become so popular?
Well, I don't know. It was always popular with me, and I never did.
But it wasn't always popular with everybody. But now it seems like it's really grown. Would you agree, Jerry?
Well, it's a different style.
Right. Here's what I think. Today. Bobby Mackey is a true country star in my heart. There's a lot of music out there, but it's really not true country. Am I correct or not?
You're correct, and I don't knock that. That's what's happening, and it has drawn a lot of younger people into country music, of what country is today, and those people come to my club and they hear my kind of music and they like it too, but my traditional country don't fit with what's going on radio today.
Now, what about venues like Renfro Valley? That's pretty much country, is it not, here in Kentucky?
Yeah, and I've played, the past 2 years, I've played the Bluegrass Festival at Renfro Valley, because I had a Bluegrass CD out, and so I've got a little Bluegrass band that I take and play some festivals. So I did, the last 2 years in June, I've played the Bluegrass Festival down there. For our visitors here at the museum that are watching this, explain the difference between country music and bluegrass. Well, it's a thin line. It's a real thin line. You don't have drums in bluegrass, but I love bluegrass music too. I grew up listening to that. A station out of Grayson, Kentucky used to come in real good in Concord, and I listened to bluegrass growing up. But they didn't take the place of Hank Williams in my early days there. But let me go back after I left the Boulevard and went to Julie's for a year and a half there in Sharonville. That's when I come over to Northern Kentucky and got the old Latin Quarter in Wilder. That was September the 8th, 1978. I opened that place and been there ever since.
Now think about that, Bobby. How many people can say that they have had a successful run in a professional music nightclub? Because that's what you are. There's not many. And I think that's probably one of the longest running and one of the best venues around.
The reason I got it, at the time I got the club, I was at a crossroads. I was either going to move to Nashville or get my own nightclub. And you know, I had a wife and a young daughter at the time, and the security of here, every club I had played, I had always been successful at. The other 3 clubs or 4 clubs, I always had a crowd. So I felt the security of that, and so I chose for the security, thinking, okay, I'm going to have my own nightclub. I can go to Nashville anytime I want to. So, and I did that. But of course, you know, if I'd have moved down there, who knows? You know, that's a big world down there, and a whole lot different. But I spent a lot of time down there and got involved with the studio and did a lot of recording, and had the Pepsi Man record that went to the top 50 in Billboard. And Hero Daddy was #1 here in Cincinnati it was #1 here at the radio stations. But that song in particular didn't hit all the major stations throughout the country because it was such a downer, they said. But secondary stations loved it. The secondary stations played it, but not the big stations that made up the charts.